Coming to you live, raw, and uncensored from Studio 107, welcome to the SOL Podcast. Wake up, America, with your host, Drew Baker, Shake and Bake.
We're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House!
Matt Dixon, the Iron Man.
When you're going through hell, keep going.
And Kelsey Lee, Special K.
I'm an extremely stable genius.
A podcast dedicated to protecting your rights by exploring the law, politics, and current events. You have the right to remain silent and listen, or call in and become a part of the show. And now, here's your host, Shake and Bake.
Welcome to the SOL Podcast. I am your host, Shake and Bake. It's good to have everybody here tonight. Let's do a roll call. Iron Man.
Check. Present.
He is here. And the special of the specialist, Kay. Are you available?
I'm ready to roll.
Ready to roll. Ready to roll. And on the SOL Podcast channel, we are in YouTube, not LuTube. I'm not sure. It's late tonight. This is a late show. Could be many different.
SOL After Dark.
Yeah. SOL After Dark. And could be lots of issues with speaking because I've been speaking all day and I'm sick of my voice because it's my job. But nonetheless, we are on YouTube and we're on all those podcast platforms you find out there, including the one and only Facebook, which we're going to be talking a lot about today because they magically just shut down yesterday, $7 billion later. And now I guess they're back up and running, but rumor is it was a $7 billion oopsie.
Maybe they determined everybody was fake news.
Yeah, I saw something that Facebook had to put itself in Facebook jail.
Well, it's about time that they decide to, do something and get a feel for what it's like to be kicked off your own platform or a platform that you rely heavily on.
Wait, have you guys ever been in Facebook jail?
I have not.
We have as a show.
Oh.
Yeah. And we get denied almost 95% of the time when we want to boost our show to other people. The boost comes back rejected.
Ooh.
Yeah. Very rejected. Looking for this. I don't know if that's really the rejected noise I was looking for, but anyway.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. We are on all those platforms. You can easily find us out there. And obviously doing these streams in the evening, we were hoping that just maybe people are home and wouldn't mind sharing their thoughts since we always love other thoughts. So the phone line is open this evening. If you'd like to call in, I've got the number right here.
The hotline is open at 610-600-1765.
There it is. That's the number. If you need it again, maybe check it out on Facebook. It's on there as well. Before we get rolling this evening, we did not play a disclaimer the last show. So I'm just waiting for the lawsuits to come a-piling.
They're lining
Can you
up.
imagine
They're lining
how
up
many
at the
people,
courthouse.
I mean, just like autographs when we leave here. I can never get home on time because, I don't want to leave one fan behind and not sign an autograph as the Shake and Bake.
I don't know about you, buddy, but I'm recognized in other places.
Well, that's because you're kind of a big deal.
I have many leather-bound books.
My office smells of rich mahogany. So anyway, let's play this disclaimer and get it out of the way. Here we go.
Remember, the views and opinions expressed on this show are meant for informational purposes only and are not to be construed as legal advice. There is no way, in any way, that we are creating an attorney-client relationship.
All right. So tonight's show is entitled Whistleblower Blowout because a lot of people hear whistleblower, and I think the term is thrown around a lot. And from a legal standpoint, there actually is legal significance to being a, quote, whistleblower. And we want to cover that in light of yesterday's, or I guess it was Sunday evening when a whistleblower came out against the company known as Facebook.
Technically, she did it a couple months ago and just finally revealed her identity on Sunday night on 60
So you're
Minutes.
telling me that when they do 60 Minutes, it's not taped right then and they do 48 minutes of
No, like
interviews?
she left over the summer or something and turned over these documents. And then Facebook supposedly didn't know who it was and has spent a month trying to figure out who this employee was. And then she revealed her identity.
Maybe
on
spend
Sunday
a month
night.
figuring out how to shut things down to clean it all up and then bring it back on.
Did she have? Was
Oh, was that a whistleblower?
Was there a big reveal party? Did they have cupcakes?
I think so. Yeah, I think they set a forest on fire or
Oh my
something.
gosh.
Well, anyway, let's get into the whistleblower from a legal standpoint. What does it mean? What's it all about? Why are there certain protections afforded to whistleblowers? Matt, I think, has done a little research on Google, would be my guess. Probably didn't dive into any of those old legal books that we have out on the bookshelf, but nonetheless, you can opine on what a whistleblower is.
I put on my readers and grabbed my corncob pipe
Yes.
and took out the old fireside books and novels to figure out exactly what a whistleblower is. Yeah, generally speaking, we hear the term whistleblower thrown around quite a bit.
Sorry.
My goodness. But if you look at the basic definition, it's a person, who reveals something covert or informs against another, such as an employee who brings, some kind of wrongdoing by an employer or other employee to the attention of government or law enforcement agency. So,
Good summary on that for sure.
I mean, it's just really a 60,000 foot view.
Okay.
I mean, just generally speaking, because each state and the federal government have different whistleblower protections and defines them similarly, but a little bit differently, right? And where and when they're afforded those protections as a whistleblower.
So when you talk about protections, you're talking about not being
They're protected
retaliated
correct.
against by the company in which they're doing the whistleblowing.
Correct. So they're commonly protected against retaliation from their employer or former employer for, bringing to light whatever wrongdoing it is.
All right.
What if the group that you're blowing the whistle on, though, is the government? Then if they're the ones that are offering protection to whistleblowers and they're the ones you're blowing the whistle on, who protects them then?
It's a very good question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You were looking at me for an answer
Oh,
because
I
I was
thought-
on
I thought-
call-in studio
Oh.
looking to see who called in.
I thought we.
I mean, I don't
to
think
you.
there really is an answer to it. I think that's sort of
Well, the answer is this one. You can bring it to whatever department in which you think it, it goes to. So if you think it's, whatever the SEC that's done something wrong, you can bring it to some other governmental entity that should bring it to light. Of course, if they don't bring it to light, you can bring it to another entity that should bring it to light. You're just saying, what if somehow it goes all the way to the top
yeah.
and it just gets shut down? And I don't necessarily have an answer for that because I'm not a whistleblower attorney. I don't specialize in that practice of law, but I'm sure there are provisions and ways to figure out how to navigate that landscape.
Or else you just get Epsteined.
Oh
Ooh,
my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Come on, man.
Come on, man. So what happened with the Facebook thing? Because I got bits and pieces throughout the day, and that's about all I got. So can you fill us in on that component while I fix the video?
Sure. So what
Thank
she
you.
said on 60 Minutes on Sunday night was basically nothing new. If you've watched the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, she just really summarized and repeated everything that was on there, which is that Facebook cares more about making money and getting you to engage on their platform than they care about, public health or people's safety. So they have designed these algorithms that will feed you content that you are most likely to engage with. And Facebook has determined that the emotion that is most likely going to make people engage is anger. So they are purposely sending you things to rile you up and get you to fight with each other because that's what keeps people on the platform.
This is a great time for that, I think, in America. A lot of anger to go around.
Yes.
Maybe a good money-making opportunity if you happen to find
Wow.
yourself one of the people making decisions at Facebook.
How do we know that anger hasn't all evolved directly from Facebook to begin with?
Well, there's certainly a level of anger that I feel at times when I read other posts from people that not necessarily that they don't have the same opinion as me, but it normally comes in the form of comments where instead of just having an opinion, they start to attack an opinion And if that's an opinion that I agree with, then I feel compelled to do something about it. I'm
Zuckerberg
angry.
suction.
And I think that there's a good point here that that's playing on a very powerful emotion. And if you can capitalize that from a money standpoint, now the question is, there a business? I don't know. There's a lot of businesses that play on our emotions, and most of that comes in the form of advertising. Think about what you see on TV. Sex sells, and that can be an issue. That could be a problem. Do you want your kids to see it? I don't know, but one way or the other, that the business knows that that's an avenue they can take that might produce a lot of business. So it's playing on our emotions, right? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
right.
true. But what this woman, the whistleblower's solution to this problem is, she says she doesn't want to get rid of Facebook. She wants to save Facebook. And the way that we can save Facebook is by letting the government come in and regulate what sort of things we're allowed to talk about and how Facebook should operate.
Well, we know more government oversight always solves
always
everything, right?
makes it better, especially if
Yeah.
they're running it. They tend to run things well.
They
In
run
fact,
it better
can I
than
just-
private enterprise every time.
Yeah, and I just want to bring up something that I heard last night that made so much sense to me. When it comes to this debt ceiling, I know we're going off track a bit, but this debt ceiling concept, I know that when I'm in a lot of debt, what I try to do is take out even more debt to pay off my debt that I owe.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I've got my debts paid off, except for the debt that I took out that was bigger than the
pay.
debt I had before.
It makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I don't know why more people aren't jumping
So
on board with this.
You've got to.
You give financial advice too?
Only on the side because it's obviously so sound
Yeah.
that I don't want to do it for free.
Got $10,000 in credit card debt, and I'm going to transfer that balance and add 5% to it, and then just carry that. Oh, that sounds.
I
like
think
a
it
good
helps
idea.
your credit when you do that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're maxed out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I did hear that last night on the news, and I thought to myself, this can't be real that's the argument. The argument is we need more money to pay off our debt, but really that money comes from a debt source. So therefore my debt is higher. How about we just focus on organizing our finances a little bit better in the United States so that we don't continue to raise the ceiling that apparently the reality is there is no ceiling. It doesn't appear at this point. It's more of a,
He's such a radical.
I know.
Yeah,
He
you're just talking crazy.
I
Just
know.
got put in
I
Facebook
know.
jail again.
All right,
Yeah,
we'll get
you're
back to this
you're
Facebook
canceled.
thing. I heard that last night, and I would say I was shocked, but I guess I don't get shocked by much these days. But that was just so unbelievably stupid that I couldn't handle it. So I had to bring it up. Anyway,
By my opinion, and I am a skeptic about a lot of
You-
things,
what?
but I
Special
don't, I'm
K?
just not buying this whole story that she's coming out as a whistleblower who's really upset about how Facebook operates. Because she's not talking about anything that wasn't already revealed last year that everybody was talking about with the Netflix documentary. And they're not really talking about holding anybody accountable. It's just an excuse for the government to be able to come in and decide what counts as misinformation and what people are allowed to talk about. And that's how they're framing this whole thing when they're talking about it is, oh, we need you, the senators, to come in and help us regulate this. We need you to solve this problem. They can't come in and say, hey, we want to do this, because then everybody gets upset about censorship. So if it's someone who's an internal person coming and asking us for our help for the safety and well-being of people, then we can go in and do it, and we can look like the good guys who are saving the day. We're not censoring you.
so
We're
what do you think? They
protecting
paid
you.
her to do this?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it that much. I just don't think that she's really there as a do-gooder whistleblower. I think this is a way to have a public narrative that we need to come in and save you from all the conspiracy theories.
Well, there's a theory there, and there's a theory that why did they rather shut everything down yesterday? I mean, they called it some kind of historical glitch. I feel like they've got the people in that company that can probably prevent those things from happening.
Just so
The
we're-
timing was just too
Yeah,
odd.
timing of that was real weird. Too. Yeah.
Wake up, America.
Yeah, wake
Well,
up.
by the way,
What was that?
whistleblowers can receive compensation for whistleblowing.
And that's through the government. They pay them.
Well,
correct?
Well, what happens is, let's say
They fine the
you blow the
company?
whistle, they fine the entity pays the fine, and then the whistleblower could get somewhere between 10 and 30% of that fine. So if it's a $300 million, fine from an SEC or, large entity,
Some money
could-
involved.
could
Well,
end up.
incentive.
Yep.
Little something for you. Wait, that was the wrong one. That was a snory one. There's the whistle. It's a little something for you is about $1 million for running your mouth and squealing.
But that, whether or not she's afforded those protections is also a debate right now because of how she delivered the information, who she delivered it to. And so there's some debate as to whether or not she falls under the whistleblower statutes that would provide her protection from retaliation or, civil suits from Facebook.
Because she gave her documents to the Wall Street Journal, not just the government.
And that has to call into question then, I think, if your theory is she's doing it for some, purpose other than what she's saying she's doing it for. She may honestly have a good initiative here if she knows that by doing what she did, she loses those protections. I don't know this, but I can't imagine she'd do something so drastic without at least talking to an attorney. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I just don't think anything's really going to happen to her. I don't
Well,
think.
her attorneys have come out publicly and, they've said Facebook would be nuts to go after this employee since this is such a big public deal, right? Because they're going to go after her for providing this kind of information, which is to protect the public, would really tarnish their name. for
Of
going
course,
after
yeah.
her. Regardless of the merits of it, of their claim against her, it would look really bad.
it was interesting. I heard one of the things in the clips that I actually picked up on from the 60 Minutes interview had something to do with how this related to the Capitol riot, that they had somehow turned off certain security measures during
Yes.
that to allow information to move freely that they normally would not allow to move freely. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Close. So in the lead up to the election, they created I think it was called the Civics Integrity Team. And that was a group of people that got to monitor misinformation regarding the political candidates in the election.
So this is within the company. It was a safety precaution.
Yes.
Okay.
And she says that right after the election, Facebook just no longer cared about that anymore and disbanded their civics integrity unit. And so she is saying that is then what led to January 6th, because Facebook was no longer monitoring and censoring certain political content that it ran wild and led to January 6th.
Well,
So
should they have to?
Well, I think they're doing it,
they have to what?
but they're
Should
doing
they have to
but they're doing it
No.
selectively.
right.
Right. I mean, it's like they're going to monitor that, but then they don't monitor other things. And I think that's what comes down to the biggest issue with social media in general, but specifically Facebook, is they selectively choose what you can put up and what I can put up. And if they don't like what you put up, then they're just going to take it off. And that defeats the purpose. I mean, if we're going to keep the open forum, and I think that's been the argument all along. I will say, where's the legislature? I mean, this has just kind of fallen through the cracks for years that they can get away with this stuff, and the legislature doesn't want to touch it, and I don't understand why. If you notice that, like the ways that you control this, right? You pass certain legislation that prevents them from doing that, or at least there's some consequence for doing that.
They
but
already
don't-
have. It's at like Section 230 where they say they're treated as a platform, not a publisher. So they can't get sued for any of the stuff that people post on their platform.
Yeah, that addresses that part, but it doesn't address their
they should
ability to monitor and then
They should be
you know,
enforcing that,
selectively-
though. And if they are going to act like publishers and censor certain content, then they should no longer have that protection from the government. That's how I think they should enforce it, is take away their protections from getting sued if you guys are going to decide what you think is true and what's not. If you want to support free speech, then we'll make it where you can't get sued. But if you're going to pick and choose, the government's not going to have your back and protect you with these lawsuits if something goes wrong.
I mean, that's a good point that you've got that there to, that protects them, and maybe they're under more scrutiny without that. Or you couple those two together. You say you get that protection, but with the understanding that you're not permitted to pick and choose who gets to say or do what on
Yeah.
your pages. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
They basically are having their cake and eating it too.
Right. And that's what I
You
don't
know,
like.
that's where
If you
it's not
want
fair.
the protection, you need to protect free speech.
Yeah.
If you want to decide what content you want shared on your platform because you're a private company, then you can get sued like any other private company.
I want to make sure, because we're throwing around some terminology, when you say free speech, we're really talking about the ability to speak freely.
Yes.
We're not talking about free speech as a protection under the First Amendment, because this is with respect to a private entity. I just
Right.
want our listeners to understand there's a difference between free speech and the ability to speak freely.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And
But since the government's
free speech thing gets thrown around
Yeah.
probably a little too much these days in terms of the legalities of what and the constitutionality of what free speech really is. I mean, it's used kind of generically, I think, in a lot of cases.
Jen Psaki came out a couple weeks ago
Oh,
and
I'm
was
sorry.
giving.
Are you relying
I
on
don't-
her
yeah.
professional constitutional opinions?
No, but we're relying on her as saying what the policy is. And she came out and told us that the Biden administration is working with Facebook and they are flagging for Facebook what posts that they think are misinformation. So you're not, if you're
Absolutely
working
ridiculous.
with the government,
yeah.
then it does to me start to muddy the waters between free speech and the
So that
ability to speak
then,
freely.
That then becomes a violation of your
Yes.
First Amendment rights.
Yes.
If the government is stepping in and
And
determining
she
what
says
should or shouldn't be
in
said.
that press conference that is exactly what they're doing, that their administration is flagging misinformation for Facebook so they can take it down.
It's amazing.
And they just openly admit it and everybody cheers it on. They're like, yeah, you got to have censorship. That's great. That's how you get rid of the fascists.
It's called selective censorship, which is an oxymoron.
I just find it hilarious that everyone who is screaming about fascism is now accepting of fascism.
Yeah.
Like,
It's insane. But and slate.com, I was reading in their opinion about the whistleblower, and they said that this is a really clever way to go about it because the government has been trying to censor misinformation about vaccines on Facebook. And it hasn't been very successful because when you're trying to censor information, people get a little funny about that and they don't like it when the government starts doing that. But if you frame it in the way that this woman is doing it, where you're protecting people and it's not that we're censoring stuff, we care about the public mental health and we don't want people to get outraged. Excuse me.
on purpose.
Yes. Then now you're doing something good for the community, and this is sort of a way to backdoor in that censorship under the guise that you're helping everybody. So,
Well, I'd like to.
We'll circle back to that.
I want to circle back and get back to where we talked about how are you presenting things that affect your emotions to, obviously get more users, get more time on the platform. Again, I can't really fault them for doing that from a business standpoint, but remember, none of us have to be on social media. It's just like buying a product. We don't have to go buy the product. I think there's an argument that in our world, you need social media to get your show out there. You need it for your business, whatever. But at the end of the day, just like you don't have to buy something you don't want or that you don't need, you don't have to get on social media. And yesterday was an interesting test for me. How much would I look to see if Facebook came back online? I'll go around the room. I'm going to tell you, I probably checked 20 times. And I don't even think of myself as a real heavy Facebook user. It always depends on what happened the day before. So if we have a show, I may be on there looking for comments, or I may be on there to promote the show, putting my own post out there. But in terms of Facebook, I would consider myself personally a very low-end user. And I still found myself on there quite a bit yesterday, waiting for it to come back up. So I'm not proud of that. I realize that's a problem. Kelsey?
I was pretty busy at work yesterday, so I didn't have a lot of time to do it. but I would, between appointments, check. But in my defense, I like to think it was because I knew it was down. So I was curious if it came back up. Not because, I got to check my social media and then I forgot that it was down. I was just curious to see what the problem was and how quickly that they would be fixing it. But
That's interesting. I feel almost as if that's an excuse.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Convenient.
no,
Yeah. Matt, you?
objection.
So
hit the gavel. Give it a good whack. Oh, yeah. See, objection to that.
Yeah, you guys weren't there. You don't know.
I follow a few groups who give me automatic notifications when anybody posts anything in those groups, and they post all the time. It's ridiculous. I need to turn off the notifications. But so normally
What kind of groups?
motorcycling groups, Ironman groups, stuff
What
like
the
that. You know,
hell?
hobbies I'm into.
Okay.
What was that?
Nothing.
What the hell?
Anyway, so I found it odd that I wasn't getting any notifications throughout the day, just because I would normally get like 20.
Yeah.
Or more.
And you won't
And
see
so,
anything pop
yeah,
up.
so like towards the middle afternoon, I'm like, what the heck's going on? And I looked and I saw that it still had the post that I'd seen at like 8 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I found out that they had an outage. So it was kind of weird. I didn't even know they had an outage.
Yeah,
the time.
at first I thought I was in Facebook jail. And then I
That's
think it was
likely.
your text message where you said something about it, Facebook being down, that's when I realized it was down for everybody and I was not in jail.
Yeah, and I boosted a post from something we did. I forget which one it was, but I boosted something and I was checking it to see if it had been rejected because it generally is. And that's when I noticed. I was like, wait a minute, this won't load up. And then I thought, well, they shut our whole page down. I really did. I was like, oh no.
Likely story.
Now we're all shut down. But anyway.
Goodness.
Well, it's interesting, and I think again the legislature has a lot to do. Not that they'll do any of it, but they have a lot to do if they want to make
I'm
this
nervous.
cleaned up.
See, I'm nervous they're going to do too much.
No,
So I think
I've
they're going to
never
use.
really been too nervous about the legislature accomplishing too much, but
Well, when
you
it
know.
comes to censoring stuff that they don't like, I think this is when they have a vested interest in getting in there and limiting what we're allowed to talk about. So it'll be
Understood.
interesting to see where it goes from here.
Who here this evening is going to get online to see what loan they qualify for that's bigger than the debt they already owe, so they can pay off the debt they already owe?
I already did it
You
while
did
we
it?
were sitting here
Okay.
talking. I was like, that's such good financial advice. I can't.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think that was the clock I hear. Yeah, we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. We're doing a short one tonight because we're all really tired, and this is fun, though. I like doing the SOL at night. We'll probably do more of it, but for right now, it was just kind of a test run. So, anybody got anything else that they must add to this conversation this evening before we sign off?
I would just say if you have something going on in your place of employment that you think should be, discussed with a higher, governmental entity,
Maybe blow the
and
whistle.
you want to be a whistleblower, to speak to an attorney about that and make
Yeah.
sure that you'll be afforded protections that you're entitled to under that statute. Don't just run out to Facebook and
Yeah, not a
air
good
your
idea.
dirty laundry.
You may have signed some
Good
documents too when you decided to work at your place of employment that you didn't read. And some of those documents may have some very damning language in them for that type
Non-disclosure
of
and non-disparagement
conduct.
agreements.
Right.
Yep.
And if you do that, then you're going to have bigger problems than being terminated. And you don't want to have that happen. So
We'd be happy to help you find the right person to provide that advice.
correct. And that won't be me and it won't be Matt, but you
I'll do it.
need to.
Know your rights.
That's right. And that's what we're all about here at the SOL podcast. Thanks for listening this evening. You can find us again on YouTube, Buzzsprout, iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, Verbal. I did pretty good that time.
You did.
I might have left
Smash the like button. Hit
Yeah.
that subscribe button on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you want to do me a favor, a big one here? If you want to do me something really nice for my birthday. My birthday is on Sunday. Don't buy me anything and don't send me any nasty messages, but just subscribe to the channel. That'd be a nice birthday gift for me.
There you go.
Yeah, that would really mean a lot. So if you do that, I would appreciate it. We're going to continue to rock this out. We'll have another show next week. We're going to be out for about 5-6 days. I got to go out of town, but when I get back, we're going to do at least one. If we can't squeeze 2 in next week, that would be nice. But we will keep them coming, and please keep your comments coming with respect to what topics you might want to cover. even if it happens to be something that happened the day before, or possibly even that day, if we're having a show, just send us a message and we'll see if we can cover it for you. Sound good?
We didn't say it'd be intelligent.
No, I didn't say that. I never made those guarantees.
Or intelligible.
Right. That's right. All right. Well, until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in to the SOL podcast.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to SOL. Join us next time on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and iTunes. For additional information or questions related to your legal matter, contact the Baker Law Group at 614-228-1882. That's 614-228-1882. Be safe, know your rights, and follow the law. This podcast is adjourned.